This is an extinct world. These are the remains of a colossal steel mill, where no furnace is blasting anymore and no iron is melting. But it wasn't always like that. In the 1970s, this was a major steelworks in France. But first the economy failed, then politics. The price has been paid though, but solely by the only losers of this crisis, the workers. Without a job anymore, deprived of their second home, and poisoned by asbestos. This video is an obituary. Let's find out the full story. We'll travel back to a time before this became the extinct world it is today. We travel through time to rediscover forgotten memories and to experience unheard stories from start to finish. This is a drama in 5 acts, and we'll start at the end. For this video, we teamed up with a French urban explorer called Nathan, or Industry Explorer on social media. For obvious reasons, he doesn't want to show his face in our video, because after all, we're documenting how we're breaking the law. So he prefers anonymity, and we respect that. But behind the scenes, Industry Explorer helped us a lot with the production of today's episode. And there are a lot more helping hands we normally never mention, but at the end of this video, we want to talk about them. But first, enjoy the show. One last check to see if we're really alone. And here we are, off to another intrusion. Located in a heavy industrial area, this bridge takes us to today's objective. A defunct steel mill, a big one, where the fires went out 10 years ago already. This is an early bird exploration, just at sunrise. We have to face a more thrilling approach this time, because this behemoth wasn't just left to rot. It's under demolition right now, and security keeps an eye on the premises. But it's the weekend, so there are no workers, and we'll have this industrial cathedral all to ourselves. As long as we stay low-key. Heck, just by the bits of what we've seen so far, I'm pretty sure we would need a week to explore everything. But we only have today. In less than 24 hours, demolition work continues. We'll start our exploration from top to bottom. I hope you aren't afraid of heights. Hands down, this is one thing we love about Urbex. You get to see places you would never see in your life otherwise. This is a colossus made of iron. If you look at this, you could think it needs a whole steelwork itself just to cast a new one. Being constantly exposed to the elements made this a corroded environment. Since we are at such dizzying heights, this means safety first for us. Wenn man auf diesen Dingern läuft, sollte man darauf achten, dass man immer dort läuft, wo die Metallplatten zusammenführen. Oder auch sowas hier zum Beispiel. Denn unten drunter sind die Stahlträger. Also falls wirklich mal so ein Gitter nachgibt, dann steht man wenigstens noch auf dem Stahlträger. Wie stabil der dann ist, weiß man natürlich auch nicht. Extra gesprüht. Das drückt sich schon rein. Der Eisenstaub ist der perfekte Dünger für dieses Moos. Das da jetzt mittlerweile schon gut 30-40 cm aufstapelt. Das sind schon kleine Bäume, die darin wachsen. The wind is howling and we are freezing on this chilly winter morning. There was a roof here once, back when the factory was operational. But it was removed, probably when they started to tear down the structure. Nature was invited to an unnatural space. If you are wondering, we are 50 meters above ground level now. Better watch where you step. Wow. Like a stranded whale, this giant dominates the area. We feature these drone shots so you get an idea about the dimensions. We are the ants in this world. Okay, we are taking a break now to enjoy the view and to have some breakfast. You, on the other hand, need to catch up with the history first, before we can continue exploring. This is Act 1. We are in Gondrange, a municipality with only 3,000 citizens. The people here called this imposing place their cathedral. Of course, this was back in the good times when the steel from this region was in great demand, but that changed long ago. For this exploration, we went to Lorraine, which is an area in the northeast of France. That's important for the story, because Lorraine has a long steel tradition. In fact, this used to be one of the major heavy industry zones. Colossi of iron characterize the landscape, and still do today. Built for eternity. These factories determined the lives of all the people. The men were operating the machines, while their families occupied small houses in the workers' settlement. These iron men had tremendous professional pride and class spirit. They were the tough guys, standing in the fire, casting iron and forming steel. They were proud of their suffering in the heat. Their work was a fight that they could only win together. Colleagues were family, and there were thousands of men with this self-understanding. Remember that. This will play an important role in the later part of this story. But let's continue this at some other point. We are openly on display up here, and it's freaking cold too. Let's look for a way down before we get spotted. Ne, das liegt hier schon eine Weile. Zeichen von anderen Explorern. After a bit of wandering around, we are back in the production halls. The quiet is eerie. We hear only the groaning of metal. This is unusual for a factory such as this, where man and machine work day and night. But the machinery was turned off and the workers were dismissed. What remains is a defunct world. To get a feel for how it is to be in an active steel mill, you need to see it in action. We found footage of another nearby plant, and this is a stark contrast to what you've seen from this site so far. Like volcanoes, these places spit fire without end. Today, this volcano is extinct. Yet we don't want to talk about its end, but its start. And we'll find info about that in the old offices. This is Act 2. The history of the steel mill has its origin in 1890, when the Germans built a factory here in Gandrange. Back then, Lorraine was still part of the German Empire. The plant was fast growing, and only both world wars could disrupt this rapid development. But the building we're exploring now was constructed later. Starting in the 1960s, they built the site to meet the strong demand for steel. The goal was to bundle the production of iron products that were scattered over several sites in Lorraine at that point. 2.6 million tons of steel per year should be produced. To achieve this, they constructed a behemoth. The main building has a height of 100 meters and is 400 meters long. With all the additional structures, around 6,000 people found employment here at the end of the 60s. But the production targets couldn't be met. The rush for greatness killed the process instead of saving it. Costs increased with size, while the opposite was expected, a strategic mistake. Despite modernizations, the plant continued to be in the red. It was a victim of the 70s steel crisis. Bad times were to follow. We are now at the converters, where molten materials were transformed into steel. For that, they took cast iron from their blast furnaces. But when it turned out to be unprofitable, they used scrap metal for making steel instead. This place really feels like an enormous spaceship. Visitors, that's us. Let's see where it goes. This is just one of the many vintage control rooms in this steelworks. Must have been aglow like a starry sky back when it was operational. For a decade now, this place has been frozen in time. All of the employees just vanished. But it isn't that simple, right? In fact, a family has been torn apart. To understand the downfall, we have to travel to the past again. This is Act 3. We go back to the year 1999. A millennium ends and big changes come to the steel mill. The operating company sells the plant to the Indian steel tycoon Lakshmi Mittal. He reduced the staff to a minimum, but even 10 years later, the steelworks was still not on the black. In one of the control rooms, we found a tragic symbol for that. While looking up from the controls, we realized that there's a board with a bunch of numbers. It shows how much steel they produced here, and it was decreasing. On the left side, in 2009, there's a red text that just says everyone was fired. From 2010 to 2015, it shows how much they were planning to produce. But that never happened. When it became clear that Mittal intended to close the steel mill, workers went on a massive strike. Even the French president himself tried to intervene and had a public appearance on site that gained media attention. An important industrial site in our country is at stake, he said, and promised help. But shortly afterward, the steel mill was shut down, and the state failed to come to the rescue. Half of the remaining 1,000 workers were laid off, and the other half got new jobs in another plant nearby. Then President Nicolas Sarkozy did something his compatriots didn't expect from him. He remained silent, and the labor union symbolically carried his promises to the grave. This is the old lab of the steel mill. Here they did tests with their products, analysis, and they also monitored.
Das sind alles diese Proben und die sehen total unterschiedlich aus.
In short, this was their quality check.
Do you think that it still works? Or was it in a box or something? No, just was in a locker.
Da hinten steht sogar noch ein altes Rohrpostsystem. Manche kennen das vielleicht so aus älteren Filmen oder Geschichten.
That's easily explained. Samples or other urgent packages were put in a small container, then transported to other departments by compressed air through a network of tubes. This saved a lot of transport time. Better don't touch anything here. Despite all the eloquent promises of politicians, this plant was eventually closed. From a colossus of steel, now only a hollow carcass remains. Here's the light running, showing that we are in the middle of a construction site. This brings us to Act 4 of the story. Knocking down a place of this size is a long process. This is the blast furnace that was already demolished in 1998. There were many buildings on the site that needed to be torn down step by step. Something like this takes years. This is how the area looked like in 2012. Most buildings were already gone, and now the steel mill should follow. 7 years later, in 2019, much had vanished, but the main building was still there. So this is where our friend Industry Explorer comes into play. He managed to sneak inside when almost everything was still intact, bringing home photos of an extinct world looking even more eerie than when we got there years later. In his photography, Nathan focuses on the forgotten industrial heritage of France. If you like, you can see more of that. Just search for Industry Explorer on Instagram or click the link in our video description. As Nathan came back to the site regularly, he witnessed the radical transition firsthand. You can see this in his before and after shots. Ironically, what's dismantled here will be burned as scrap metal in another steel mill. By the time our video goes online, this historical place will be almost emptied out. Riesig, das Wasserbecken. Ja, irgendwie hätte ich Bock, da drin zu schwimmen. Ja, sicherlich keine gute Idee. With the shutdown of the steel mill, the pumps were also killed. So parts of the production halls are now filled with groundwater. At a place this massive, you always discover something new. Even after hours of exploring, climbing up and down the whole time, and thousands of steps on the pedometer, we still haven't seen everything. But we have only one thing in mind now anyway: the After Urbex pizza. The winter cold all day long was exhausting, but we still have enough energy for the final part of the story. Act 5. And that's us. The unannounced visitors on a giant deconstruction site. This rusty beast is the victim of a steel crisis as well as bad technological and economical decisions. The downfall was inevitable. During its 40 years of operation, 60 million tons of steel were produced. And now, sadly, lots of scrap metal gets added to that. More than the operating company, it was the staff that experienced the loss here. Alongside one another, they fought for their cathedral, but this was a hopeless war. The former workers of the Gondrange steel mill were left behind in bitterness, but also disappointed, especially from their elected politicians. In a short period from now, this place will be gone. It makes way for a hydrogen production plant. Ironically, this site was bought by a former advisor of Nicolas Sarkozy, the then president, with his failed promises. It's a slap in the face for the people who once worked here. Some look at this and just see a blot on the landscape. But be curious and you will see way more than that. As mentioned in the beginning, Nathan contributed a lot to today's video. He was helping us with the research, he sent us archival footage, and he was fact-checking our video script. On our journey in France, we explored several places together, so you will see him again on our channel at some point. We have quite a few helping hands who support us in creating those videos, but you as the viewer normally don't see them because they are not joining on any exploration. Two guys, Franz and Richard, are helping us with the double checking of our English scripts. Franz is a childhood friend who is very familiar with the English language. The second guy is Richard. He's a US-based viewer and he subscribed to our channel, I don't know, a long time ago. And so he offered his help about 1 year ago, which is quite nice of him. Then we've got Hema, she's doing the Spanish subtitles, and Abigail from Brazil, she's doing the Portuguese subtitles. For you, I think it's just important to see that it takes a whole team to produce videos like that. And so we really, really appreciate that you're enjoying our work, that you're watching the episodes. It helps us to keep going and to keep doing what we do. And that's nice. So stay curious, I would say, and see you in the next episode of our France road trip.
Do you want to see more defunct industries we explore together with Nathan? Or do you like fancy abandoned mansions and churches more? It's all in our backlog, so let us know what to edit next. Also, we just started to sell fine art prints in our online shop at bwturbex.com, and calendars will follow very soon. Stay curious and keep exploring.